Hi, it's Maureen. If you're new to my channel, welcome to this December bullet journal video. But first, here's a flip through my November setup. I got so many views for this one. Thanks so much for tuning in. This month's theme and layout are inspired by this cute card from Jamie at Stampin Up with Jamie. I'll be using the Decorated with Happiness stamp set and the Decorated Pines dies, the Evening Evergreen and Real Red ink, and Stampin Write markers, along with some other markers and cardstock and scrapbook paper. I'll link everything in the description. The Decorated with Happiness stamp set is a photopolymer one. I love that I can see through the stamp for perfect placement. I'll be using the evergreen bough, the ornaments, star grouping image, along with lots of other images. I'll be attaching them to my acrylic blocks. I'll use different sizes to fit the sizes of the images. Once I get all of these set up, I'll start with my quote. I like to use something inspiring for my quote, and this month is no different. So for this month, I thought about Christmas and I thought about pines and decided to write, "Lighting up my life one needle at a time." I'm varying the sizes of the font, some large lettering and then small print. I like to write the large letters first so that I can be sure to have room for all of them. And then I go back in with a finer point and I write in the smaller words because I can be sure to make them fit. I'm going to add a border around the image or around my quote, and then I will be adding some more fun stuff to this page. On the right side, I'm going to get started with the evergreen bough. The evergreen bough I'm going to place on the side to make it look as if it's like a Christmas tree. And this is the design that I got from Jamie from Stampin Up with Jamie. So I have my evergreen bough sticking out from the left. I'm using the scrap paper so that I can get the image to come right out of the border. And I'm just inking and re-inking and making sure that I stay within that border area. The stamp set also has a smaller little leaf or evergreen that I can just add in where I want to. So I'm going to just make some more fillings and make the tree look more full by adding in more of these branches. Once I have all my branches stamped, I am going to get the shaded piece or the piece that will be filling it in. And I am going to also ink that up in the evergreen ink. But when I ink it up in the evergreen ink, I'm going to stamp off first so that I have a lighter coloring and then stamp right over the top of that image. And this is where the photopolymer stamp set really has the greatest benefit because I can line it up perfectly and get it exactly where I want it. There's also a shading for that smaller branch as well. Once that's done, I decided to use some crushed curry ink and add in my star grouping. So I have some stars with some dots and I am filling that in. I like to use an odd number, so I have 3 on the left and 3 on the right. Now I'm going to go back and write December using my Real Red ink, Stampin Write marker, and I'm writing it in a fine font instead of a thicker font. And there we go with December. I'm going to add some drop shadow here on the side, so at the bottom, and then I like to put it on the right side. Just kind of makes the page have a little bit more dimension there, and then that gives those sections a little area to pop out at you. Now for the fun part. I had 2 pieces of cardstock. I had the basic white and then the very vanilla. And the very vanilla matched up the best with my bullet journal paper. So I went and stamped some ornaments, and now I'm stamping the filling. I did stamp off so that I could vary the color. I'm going to use the evergreen, the pine dies, so that I can cut out these images to add them to my page. I decided to use my mini stamp and emboss machine so that I could cut them out. And this way, I didn't have to worry about masking. I could just put them right on top of the branches. But using the Stampin' Emboss machine, I have the mini one here since these are such small pieces. I can run it through and then it cuts out my image perfectly. And I'm going to do this for each of the images. So I have 3 different ornaments that I am going to add to the page. So I'm using my Stampin' Emboss machine for that. Now, to get these to adhere to the page, I do have my adhesive that I'm going to use. And I have my mat in here, my acrylic mat. And this mat is so that when I am putting my adhesive on, it doesn't stick to the mat that I have underneath, and it just kind of sticks to the acrylic mat. So I'm just adding those in there. I'm hanging 3 of the ornaments. I'm trying to push the adhesive to the back so it doesn't stick off to the front. There we go. And that is the first part. So I'm also going to add an evergreen bough to the left side. I decided it needed to look a little bit more balanced, so I put one over there. I'm going to fill that one in, and then I'm going to add 1 more ornament to the left side. Go. I'm going to add some adhesive to this one. Again, the adhesive is wider, so I do have to push it behind the image so that it doesn't stick out once I adhere it to the paper. And I can move that out of the way, stick that on there. Oh, it's a little too tall, so I'm going to cut off a little bit of that top part, and then I can hang it on, and it should fit just right. All right, let's move on to the calendar page. For my calendar setup, I am using my favorite pen, and I will link it below. My boxes are 5 by 5. I like the size of 5 by 5 because it gives me just enough room to include everything that I need to say I need to write for what's going to happen for that month. So I am just going straight across. I have 5 boxes on the left and then 2 on the right. And I'm going to start with a Sunday start. I like for my calendars to start on Sunday, although I like my weeklies to start on a Monday. So I'm finishing up the boxing here. Again, it's 5 by 5, super easy to do. And I am going to put that highlighted strip across using my marker. I did this last month and really liked it, so I'm continuing with that for this month. Once I have that in there, I am going to get my real red marker and write the days of the week at the top using some hand lettering. So again, I'm starting with my Sunday, and then I will fill in the first letter for each of the days of the week across the top. I like using real red, especially for Christmas time, because it does make the page pop. And I love my Stampin' Write markers. You can see how juicy they are as I'm writing it. You can see the juice. You can see the wet ink, and then it dries, and it's so fun to write with. So I'm going to add December at the top. I'm using my evening evergreen Stampin' Write marker, and I'm writing December at the top using my hand lettering. One of my favorite things to do. I love practicing writing the months of the year with different markers. So much fun. Once I have December written, it is time to go over to the right. I'm going to add a section for important dates. So I have my highlighted section, and then I'm going to make some lines. And after the lines, I'm going to write at the top, important dates. Well, I guess I'll do it later. First, I will stamp some images, some ornaments at the top. I'm varying the different ornaments, having them stick off the page a little bit so you can see I have scrapbook paper there, and I also have my piercing mat. When you are using photopolymer stamps, it's a good idea to use a piercing mat because it helps you to get a full image so you can have a nice firm place to stamp. So I'm stamping some of those evergreen leaves at the top, and I have my ornaments, and now I'm going to write important dates at the top, and I can put some important things that are happening for December there in that space. I'm going to add the numbers. There are 31 days in the month of December, and here we go. Last but not least, I'm adding some stars. I'm going to put in my mood tracker. This tracker again comes from Raksha. She has a page, Reflections with Raksha, and she sells them there. I'm adding a drop shadow again to make the page have some dimension and to make it pop. And I am just about done with this page. I will add my circles for my mood tracker later. On the next page, I'm going to get started with my one line a day. I like to write one thing a day that makes me happy or one thing that I'm feeling blessed about, just something that was fun. So I'm numbering the side of the page from 1 to 31 for the 31 days. I'm bringing in my piercing mat so that when I stamp, my image will have a full coverage place so that I can have equal pressure when I push down and I will get a nice image. I am adding one ornament to the top right, and then I'm going to add another one to the left of it. I love the hanging down one. It just, I don't know, it adds something extra to it. So I like how I have the shorter one and then the longer one. I put some shading in there by stamping off first, and then I stamped on. I added some of the greenery to the top again, and now I am going to go in and write a line for every other line, so that way when I write in my one line a day, I can stay within the correct spacing and it's easier to see where to write it. On the right side, I want to erase that out of the way first, and I am going to set this page up for Christmas traditions. I have so many fun things that I like to do in December, and I'm going to list those things here as I do them. So first I'm writing Christmas in my real red ink. I'm printing it, and then with my hand lettering, I use the evening evergreen ink marker to write traditions. I'm going to give this page a border. It just sections it off and makes it so that you can obviously see it's a whole different theme than what's on the left side, or a whole different idea than the left side. So I am going to have, to make the pages connect by adding some ornaments to the top. So I do have my Stampin' Pierce mat in the back for that equal coverage. I'm adding in 2 ornaments. I'm putting the shading in. I'm doing a drop shadow on the right and on the bottom. And then I am going to add a little bit to the left of the letters. I did this in November, so I'm tracing the left side of each of my letters. And it just makes the word pop out. I like to do something that just gives a little bit of extra to my pages, so that's my little extra for this one. I added in some stars, and now I'm going to add some greenery to the top of the right side. I have the greenery there, and you can see I'm just making it hang off the top of the page, and then I'm going to add the shading. So I stamp off, and stamp the image. Now, one last thing I want to add to the bottom of this is a quote, and it's one of my favorite ones for the holiday. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. And that's from the movie Elf. If you haven't watched Elf, you need to watch it. It's something fun to do every December, and it makes me smile and laugh every single time, regardless. So I'm going to add that to the bottom. I'm going to write some in basic black ink, and then I'm going to write some in real red. Again, varying my fonts. I like to change it up. It just makes it look more interesting when you use different fonts and when you use different colors. It's a little thing that you can add. Your letters don't have to be fancy, but if you make some big and some small, and if you change the colors, it really does add a lot to a page. So on this page, I'm going to add different things like trips to the Christmas market, going to the tree farm, baking cookies, decorating the tree, and all that fun stuff. Now, on the next page, I'm going to get my dashboard set up. And a dashboard is a way that you can organize your month. So it's a kind of a get stuff done page. So I am going to use that evergreen bough and make it hang down from the left side there. Oh, that looks so cute when you stamp it there. I'm going to stamp off the shading first, and then I'm going to stamp right over the bough, and then look at that. Watch what happens. Beautiful. So I love how it all comes together. These stamps are great for using in your bullet journal, and they're also great for card making. So I'm going to share some more with you this month on YouTube. So stay tuned, and you'll see some cards with using this stamp set as well. So I'm having so much fun, I need to share more with you. Once I get all of this stamped, I get my boughs, my greenery stamped into the top here, and I do the shading. I am going to add some ornaments. I want to make it look sort of like the first page, but not quite like the first page. So I am going to have some ornaments hang down. I did die cut a lot of those ornaments earlier, so I'm going to be using those same ornaments and add them in. But before I do that, I want to make some frames. When I create a dashboard, I create different sections for different things. So I may create a box. In one box, I will write the word stamping, and then I'll write all the things that I need to do with stamping. I'll create another box, and then for that box, I'll write home. And then in that box, I'll write down all the things that I need to do for the home, and I'll put those in there, and that's a great way for me to keep track of the things that need to get done. If you notice, I varied the way I made my frames just to make it look interesting. So I have squares on the right and the left, and then in the center, I did something different and made it a little fancy. I doubled the tracing for that center one, and then I went back and colored it in, or I kind of traced around it with my evening evergreen marker. I used a new color. I brought in my old olive marker, and then I added that to the left of the boxes. So I have a section for stamping, one for home, and one for errands. On the far left, I also made an area for contacts. So people that I need to reach out to, I will add them to that section, and it just gives me a reminder to reach out to them. You can see where I brought in those ornaments that I cut out earlier. I did that off camera so that I could have that ready for you. So once I laid them where I wanted them to go, I pulled out my adhesive, and I am adding that adhesive to the back. And once I get it there, I'm going to tuck it behind to make sure it doesn't stick out, and I will add them in. And I will do that for each of the ornaments and vary how they hang down. Some are shorter, hanging up high, and some are hanging down low. On the right side, I'm going to write the word dashboard by varying the colors that I'm using. So I'm using the real red, the old olive, the evening evergreen, and I'm just alternating until I get the whole word dashboard there. Now I want to add something extra, so I'm going to go back and trace around it with a finer tip marker. I think this is a 0.3. And when you trace around it, it doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to be right on it. You can be off of it. It kind of looks better when you leave some white areas in there. So have fun with it. I'm sure it will look great. I like to write the letters first and then trace them. It's easier to do that instead of trying to make block letters and then color them in. So there we go. There's the word dashboard. I'm bringing in my Stampin' Pierce mat so that I can do some stamping. I am going to add some greenery to the top, make it stick off just like the other side. I'm going to add in some shading just like I did the other side. So I do stamp off because I want to vary the color. It's a great way to use one ink color, but make it look like you used two. So I'm stamping right on the page and adding one of my ornaments there, a nice hanging down one, and then I'll add that shading in there as well. And lastly, I'm using a different star grouping stamp here, and I am going to stamp on the left, on the right, up, down, and there we go. This section here with the lines, I'm not sure what I'm going to put there, but I want it to balance out the page. I think it makes it look better. So now we are on to my weekly. Most of my weeklies are going to look like this. I have hanging ornaments from the top. I'm going to put some shading there. Each of these ornaments will represent the day of the week. So I am going to put 6 of them up there, and one of them will represent the weekend. I'm also going to add some greenery to the top because ornaments without some greenery kind of just look weird. So I'm going to put greenery up there so it looks like they're hanging from some really big tree, I suppose, at the very bottom. Being really creative here. So there we go. I am also going to now go in and I'm going to add the shading for the greenery. So you can see how I have it just sticking off the page. I'm putting something there so I don't get ink on the table and then on other pages. I'm going to write the first letter for the day of the week. These letters are about 5 dot spaces apart and just really cursive writing, and then the W for the weekend. I will be putting my tasks on the left for home and tasks on the right, and right on those ornaments, I'm going to write the numbers for the days of the week. Most of my weeklies will look just like that for this month. On the left, I'm going to add in my tasks for home and my tasks for work, and then I'm going to get ready for a flip through. And this will be so much fun. And you can see all the pages that we did together. So most of my supplies come from Stampin Up. I am an independent Stampin Up demonstrator, and the materials that I use mostly come from Stampin Up. I like to use stamps in my bullet journal for card making and scrapbooking. I'm going to put a link to my store below. For these stamps, I got them from the Stampin' Mini Holiday Catalog, and you can see the images here. If you use my hostess code by December 15th to make a purchase, I'll send you a card using one of these, using this stamp set. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.